Happy Monday. I'm Wiley, your favorite information scientist in training. Coffee and conversations in the kitchen. Wiley Report. I use Wiley Report to talk about my experiences as an information science PhD candidate, sometimes as a librarian, life and everything in between. I haven't made a video in a while, so I just decided today, before I start writing, I would do this. Writing today for me is about finishing my annual review. That's due on the 20th, and I need to finish it. I finished a good chunk of it. I have like 2 parts I have to write about the research, and for me, I was on sabbatical from January 21st to October the 20th. So I know the research part. I know what I've done real well this year. No shade. I know real well what I accomplished and what did not happen. I know that very, very well. Which in reality and looking at it, it was a banner year of accomplish the things that I said I would on that draft of my sabbatical application that I submitted. There's only one thing on there that did not happen, but the rest of the things did. And things that weren't even on the draft occurred, like passing a prelim, writing a proposal, doing a dissertation study, going to conferences. I've been to iConference. I went to Digital Pedagogy Institute, presented there virtually. I presented at 4S, Society of Social Studies of Science. I did a poster at ALICE, Association of Library Information Science Educators, and I participated in a doctoral colloquium and presented a poster at ACES, the Association of Science and Information Technology. I might have messed up that acronym, but it's ACES. So I've been there and also found out December that I got accepted for the critical approaches of Black media. That's going to be in New Orleans in February. I will be presenting there. And also I found out Friday the Big Ten's Trans Alliance Initiative. My proposal got accepted there. And the unit of interpretive criticism on campus, I'll be speaking on the 5th. So February and March. And also, we're graduating in May. So this dissertation is getting done too. 2 chapters to go. I'm finishing up the analysis of critical technocultural discourse analysis of podcast episodes. I finished the episodes of Hood Rat to Head Rap, and am now working on Fact Talk. And I switched to clips because Fact Talk episodes can be 4 hours, and some of that has nothing to do with my dissertation topic. So thankfully I found all the clips that go with what I'm talking about. So that's next, and I will be submitting those 2 chapters the end of this month. But today, that's my update. But today, and I also got a rejection of an article for archival science. I was a co-authored paper, and it got rejected. Did I feel sad? Yes, because my bar's standards is often in heaven. And I want everything to be a yes. And sometimes it's not. So there's so many lessons that I have learned about me in that experience, because my portion was about informed consent. And it was some work that I had from a class. So I'm still trying to figure out what I will do, or what's the next steps for that. I just saw the email yesterday, and today's a holiday, so I don't know. But I also it's kind of like I feel like I feel like life for me right now is like I'm the chef. I like to cook in real life anyway, but I got a lot of things on the stove. So that dish, if that's a dish, that dish didn't turn out well. So it was good, but the critics didn't like it. So we just set that to the side, and I got other things that I got to deal with. So that's where we are. But today, what I've been really thinking about, and I've been thinking about it pretty much since last week, because one of the challenges that I've found in terms of things that I deal with is, what I have working on, what am I working on now, what things are absolutely due, the obstacles that you might face in getting them done. I didn't necessarily create the framework for that. The framework I learned from Qual Scholars, Dr. Marvette Lacey. And so those are things I think about all the time now since being a Qual Scholar, since I was in the class phase. So I was thinking about that in terms of the work that, I have to do and planning for the best and worst versions of myself, because this week is a lighter week because I don't have any major meetings on the calendar except for maybe one tomorrow. Wednesday. So this week I have a lot of opportunity to work on research. So I'm working on the things that are due, and then, like I said, my dissertation, and planning for those times, and also planning for the time when you wake up and you ain't with it, because that's real too. But something too I was realizing that's been a challenge to me is I talk to my mom every day, either text in the morning, or she texts back, and I talk to her, in the evening. And sometimes I know that those conversations are like check-ins, how you doing, how things are going. Sometimes those conversations are difficult because it's care related. And I think for me, it can be a challenge because I can't fix it. And I'm not saying she's asking me to fix it. She's not. I think, that's the situation and experience, because my dad was a person that she would talk to about things. He's gone. My aunt was a person that she would talk to about things, and she's physically present cognitively in some ways, and cognitively not in others. And I think last week was a hard week, or at least it was a hard week in the way that my mother expressed it was. And so it just, for me, it brought up this care quote that I saw by Professor Christina Sharp. I actually saw that this quote on Substack in December, and I remember writing it down because I was thinking, oh, that is so, true. If you follow, me on TikTok, you can probably see me talk about, some of my care experiences. I'm calling them the Care Chronicles. And look out, soon there'll be a YouTube that's called The Caretaker's Table that is all about care. So this is the quote that I'm talking about, in case you haven't read it. It says, care is complicated, gendered, misused. It is often mobilized to enact violence, not assuage it, yet I cannot surrender it. I want acts and accounts of care, shared and distributed risk as mass refusals of the unbearable life, as total rejections of the dead future. And that's by Christina Sharp. The librarian in me had to figure out where it came from, and it comes from the book, probably because I have blurb feature on It's in Ordinary Notes by Professor Christina Sharp, and I look for it, and here's the quote, here's the story that's before it. So I'm gonna read that to you. This is not my work. I'm not even saying that it is. It's Professor Christina Sharp's Ordinary Notes, and this is note 233, Life Walking Across the Desert. Trigger warning is talking about violence. So this is what it says. I read in the Chicago Sun-Times that when Jacob Blake's father visited him in the hospital Wednesday, he said his son, who was shot in the back by a Kenosha, Wisconsin police officer over the weekend, was handcuffed to the bed. Blake, 29, was shot more than half a dozen times on Sunday and is paralyzed from the waist down. Jacob Blake's crime is surviving his attempted assassination by police. His crime is being black and surviving. Jacob Blake's father said that when he was finally able to see his son, Jacob looked and sounded like his son, and he's alive. Seeing him in the hospital was like walking across a desert to find someone waiting with a glass of water, his father said. It was a feeling I can't describe. No word will do. No analogy is possible. And they do have a citation. Let me find it. But or a note. I don't know if it's a citation. It's a note. But where that's from. Let me see. Nope. Okay. I'm not sure where this, like, if there's more details later, but that's what they wrote. And then that's when the next page for note 234 comes, and it says care is complicated, gendered, misused. It is often mobilized to enact violence, not assuage it. And I cannot surrender it. I want acts and accounts of care as shared and distributed risk, as mass refusals of the unbearable life, as total rejections of the dead future. And I bring that up because you think about, like, care is complicated. Professor Sharp, brilliant, wonderful. I'm still reading In the Wake that she wrote. That one has been hard because it's heavy. And I think it's because of the way she writes about grief. And when I was reading it, I didn't find it until earlier this summer, but the heaviness of it is like, oh, you got to sit with that. But I'm continuing it. Excellent and brilliant work as always. But I think about, like, care. And then when I'm thinking about the story that came before it about, like, walking across the desert, and what comes up for me in terms of that is thinking about, I've been analyzing Hood Rat to Head Rat, the podcast for my dissertation, and in one of the episodes, toward the end, Erica Hart is talking about black violence, about violence and black people, and oftentimes, until we're dead, that's when our lives matter. Or you think about, like in that experience, you know, this is a person who has survived an attempt on their life, yet he's handcuffed to the bed. Under what guise? I do not know. But thinking about, like, how care, just in the quote itself, about how it's complicated and gendered. Because I also think about, in the same podcast episode with Erica and Eb is talking about growing up within black girlhood and what black girlhood does not provide or did not provide in their childhood experience, or just the way that you're treated, which parallels the conversation that Erica has when they're talking about black femmes being marginalized, femmes, queers, non-binary, anybody that is other, in terms of blackness, and how that how about the lack of protection, which in essence is the lack of care. Even though I realize that in the context of the no, you're talking about Jacob is a son, but I see that in a way that both black femmes and black men have difficulties receiving care for different reasons. And I'm not saying that the harm of one is greater than the other. That's not the argument at all. I'm just saying I see it is complicated. As I often find many tensions and contradictions when ultimately I think people should be cared for. Black people should be cared for. We should get to live long lives, and I think that's one of the things that I've talked about. If you on my TikTok video is thinking about that in terms of my father, and how I just had this idea that because my grandmother and my great grandmother had lived, because my great grandmother had lived to 102 and my grandmother lived to 99, I just knew on these my paternal grandparents, I just knew, and elders, that my father would get that. And you mean, what do you mean? Gone at 75. I don't. What do you mean? And then when I look at the elders that remain in my family, and all of them are 70 plus. Yet there are also people that experience loss and they're much younger than 70. And then thinking about like the conversations about Black life and Black death, and about how in some time, in some ways, people don't receive care. They don't receive honor and respect for their life, for their being, for their existence. And in some ways, you can find conversations where people are trying to choose who deserves to be protected, who deserves to be cared for, who deserves to be seen, who deserves to be loved, under what conditions do they receive that. And I'm not justifying or arguing for a side. I'm just saying the things that come up when you're having that conversation. And I feel I just wish there was more care. But yet I realize people struggle with care because we're often talking about who gets to be cared for. And people have different views and different perspectives on that. As I think about, like, in family, for me, care, the lens of care is very much viewed through the experiences that my mother and my aunt held in their care for my grandmother who had dementia. So they view care as what they did and how they feel others should do. And I don't always know if that's fair. I know that's their lived experience. And it's true. Yet I don't know. And it comes up, I guess, because you're thinking about what kind of care my aunt will need. She's been married to my uncle. They've been together since my aunt was in the 9th grade and he was in the 12th grade, and he provides her care. And there's conversations about, he might need help. But will he ask for help? Who's the person that he talks to for help? I do not know. And then there's this conversation where my mom was like, oh, he doesn't see. I'm like, I don't know if that's true, that he doesn't see. He's with her all the time. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, yes, it's true that sometimes you can be with people and still not see things, but I don't always think that's 100% of the situation in his case when you have to provide the care. So it is my hope that he's getting the support that he needs. Also realizing, too, when you can ask people, hey, how you doing? How things going for you? Even if you're waiting for that answer, if you're not the person that they talk to in that manner, they might not share that information with you. So that's not negative. That's not shade. That's just, do you have that type of relationship with that person? And thinking about what is the relationship that people have with others in some cases. And in some cases, it should never be about the relationship at all. You should just be able to get care. So, yeah. So many tensions, contradictions, and things that are unresolved. But I think for me, one of the things I was thinking about, this week is, one, that sometimes conversations can be heavy with my mom because I don't know how to fix it. She's not asking me to fix it, and I do not know what to do. It also makes me feel sad because I cannot fix it, and I would love to fix it, but I don't know how you could, because there's no proximity that I can be that changes death, that changes aging. She does have autonomy in her body, in her mind, heart, and spirit, and I want her to have that. I want her to be able to do the things that she would like to do, and I would imagine and feel like I wish my aunt had that too, but that's not how life has worked, and she does have it to a degree. And I remember saying to my wife earlier this week, or last week, I remember saying to her, I don't remember in that race toward adulthood us having, conversations with this being in the handbook. And she was like, it wasn't in the handbook, Chris. It was, this, like, I don't know where you filed these conversations about what it means to care for aging parents or to watch, elders age and wanting them to be cared for and wanting people to be good to them and wanting people to be of help. Because I was thinking about that too, in the sense of oftentimes when I go to visit my mom in the evening times when she's getting ready to go to bed, she has her own routine, and I find myself getting impatient. And then also reminding myself that, this is her routine. It's going to be okay. And then she'll often want to exercise her legs. And then I remember, and then I thought I had that thought in parallel to the experience of being in Walmart And there was a senior, and for me, he could have ordered all 5 of the things, told the person he wanted all 5 of the things that he wanted instead of one at a time. But I was like, that's just how I would have done it. People have their own way of doing things. It's okay. And then also having the thought that when I'm 70 plus, seeing those as parallel conversations, even though my mother doesn't know this person. And I don't know this person in Walmart either. But thinking to myself, in my 70s, I hope there are people that are good to me and that are caring. And not just that they're good to me, I hope that I am continually and consistently living a life that seeks consistently to be good to others. Not because I'm trying to get anything, just because I think that's just the best way to be. And thinking again, how care is complicated. Because sometimes it feels like with care, there's roles, there's agreements, and I don't know if we've all signed up and said that I agree with that. I promise I will. Because we don't even have time to talk about how being the eldest in the family, rolls into that. That's a whole different show. But just thinking about how all of those things are parallel conversations going on at the same time, and the choices that we have to make in the lives that we have to live as we watch how others are cared for or not cared for, and what we're left with as we're trying to live our best life, trying to live and just get through day to day, moment to moment, millisecond to millisecond. That's all I got. I hope I've given you food for thought, and I also realize that sometimes I can't solve it, and that's okay. But you know what? We're going to keep on going, and I hope that your day is a good one. You remembering that your voice, your insight, it always matters, and I hope that you're being good to yourself, being kind to you and to others. Peace. Have a good one.